Today we start one of the most ambitious projects ever undertaken by a Glasgow-based newspaper. Glasgow Back in the Day is going to tell the history of this great city in chronological order from its earliest days to the end of the 20th century. It will be a long-running series of columns, probably going well into 2021, and we hope you will like it sufficiently to stay the course with us. We cannot tell every story associated with Glasgow, but we will try to be as comprehensive and detailed as possible, and we will certainly be as factually accurate as we can be and differentiate between myths and legends, and there are plenty of both when it comes to telling Glasgow's story. So let's start at the very beginning, because as the song says, it's a very good place to start. There is very little trace left of prehistoric Glasgow. The earliest records of life on these islands are fossils, and they show that there was life of sorts in what is now Scotland more than 400 million years ago, and the fossil records do indicate that there were forms of early life in and around Glasgow. The Bear's Den shark, for example, is one of the best preserved fish fossils anywhere, while the fossil grove in Victoria Park in the city has a collection of fossilized trees showing that Glasgow really once was south of the equator almost 300 million years ago. What determined the first human presence in Glasgow was the River Clyde. This series will repeatedly show how the history of Glasgow and the River Clyde are intertwined, and how its many variations over time caused human upheaval. We know from the findings of the remains of canoes during excavations in the 18th and 19th centuries that people inhabited the area and fished in the Clyde in and around modern Glasgow in the time before the first conquerors came from a city far away, Rome. As is the case with much of the British Isles, the earliest written records of human activity in Scotland were made by the ancient Romans at the time of the Caesars, and we know that they must have been in the Glasgow area for some time in the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, because between 142 AD and 154 AD they built the Antonine Wall, named after Emperor Antoninus Pius, just north of Glasgow, running between what is now Old Kilpatrick in West Dunbartonshire and what is now Bowness in Falkirk district, to defend themselves against the incursions of the tribes north of the Forth and Clyde valleys. The Romans gave the land north of the Antonine Wall the name Caledonia, and throughout its comparatively brief existence as the northern frontier of the Roman Empire, the wall was attacked by the Caledonians many times, and by the early years of the 3rd century it was virtually flattened. Built of wood and mud and not stone like the more famous Hadrian's Wall, the Antonine Wall is known to have had forts and fortal. For more on this story, visit the news article link.